lots that were sold in this particular case for $10,000 each in the first 36 lots and $15,000 each in the next 18 would have to sell for $60 or $70 or $80,000 each. And that just drives the home price up to where it's not affordable anymore. No developer is going to take that chance of putting out that kind of money, knowing that they're not going to be able to sell the lots for that. So these type of incentive programs are critical if you expect to have any development locally at all.
I'm Cristina Janney with the Hays Post and Eagle Radio, and I'm speaking with Doug Williams of Grow Hays about government incentive programs for several projects in Hays on this episode of the Hays Post podcast. First of all, we thought we'd talk about the Tallgrass addition. And all of these projects have incentive programs, but they don't really affect directly people's current tax rates. But they do help incentivize development within the community. Can you talk a little bit about what kind of programs are helping the Tallgrass addition?
Sure. Well, Tallgrass, which is a housing development east of NCKA Technical College, or Fort Hays North Central Technical College, is a housing development that was started back in 2020 and 2021 using what was then a rural housing incentive district. And what that allows for is that the developer puts in the streets, the infrastructure, all of those type of things, and it allows them to recover the costs or a portion of those costs of putting that in through this rural housing incentive districts by the property tax that is created by the homes that are built there. So just as an example, when that was an empty field, the property taxes were $200 a year. Now with 54 homes out there, those taxes are probably close to $200,000 per year. Well, it allows the developer to recapture a portion of those annual revenues to recover some of the costs they incurred in putting in those streets. Yes, they get dollars through lot sales, but not near enough to recover what the cost of the infrastructure is. So that's how an RHID works.
So to reiterate, this does not result in local taxpayers' taxes going up at all.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't take any of the existing tax revenue streams to subsidize or incent any of that. It's only future tax revenues that are created by the actual project. So it's one of those things that if you didn't do that, it wouldn't happen. So you're not losing anything you're paying right now, but they are capturing the property taxes for a period of time that are generated by that new development.
And we've talked many times about how it's really tough for developers to build new houses in a community like ours right now. And these incentives really help make these projects happen.
It's really the only way development occurs in rural America right now. Otherwise, lots that were sold in this particular case for $10,000 each in the first 36 lots and $15,000 each in the next 18 would have to sell for $60 or $70 or $80,000 each. And that just drives the home price up to where it's not affordable anymore. No developer is going to take that chance of putting out that kind of money, knowing that they're not going to be able to sell the lots for that. So these type of incentive programs are critical if you expect to have any development locally at all.
Right. So there were a couple of other projects that the city talked about at its meeting last night that are also getting some incentives. The Chestnut Suites project on Main, which was the old bank building, is also getting some incentives. You want to talk a little bit about that project?
Sure. Everybody's familiar with the old Hays State Bank building at 12th and Main. It has been empty, they said last night, since 1980. That seems impossible to me that it's been empty that long, but perhaps it has. A long time. And the owners are proposing to remodel that into, I believe it's 24 roughly Airbnb suites, kind of a downtown hotel using an Airbnb model. And they had asked the city for approval for industrial revenue bonds. Another complicated incentive that, it's probably not aptly named, but basically what it allows the developer to do is avoid paying sales tax on the improvements they put into the project. So all the materials they buy would normally be subject to sales tax. In this particular case, with the approval of industrial revenue bonds, they avoid the sales tax on those items. I believe their estimated improvement costs were like $3 million. So it's a substantial amount of money for them to be able to save because renovation of a structure like that is extremely expensive. And once again, to make it financially feasible, you've got to have these type of incentives and utilize them any way you can.
And that, I think, is really going to enhance that downtown area because that really has been a blighted building for quite a long time. It
absolutely has. And, I think it's, in a way, a game changer for downtown. We've had a number of developers who have built apartments above downtown businesses and that kind of thing, but not to the scale that this would be. With 24 units down there and with wedding things happening at the Strand and events happening at the Fox and some other things going on downtown, it's just a great addition to what downtown has and will help that downtown district immensely. And we've already got a very successful downtown. This just adds to it.
Also, there's a project that Gallows is expanding into a historical location right next to its current location downtown as well. And they're using some incentives for that as well.
Yeah, it's the same thing. It's industrial revenue bonds where they can avoid the sales tax on the improvements. And they plan to expand that into an expanded kitchen. And then they're partnering with NCK's culinary department with doing some educational things in there for cooking and culinary type activities. So a nice partnership between the Gellas Group and NCK, as well as an expansion of a downtown restaurant. And I'm not sure exactly what all they're going to do, but expand their kitchen capabilities. I think maybe they're going to have the capability of having a banquet rooms and that kind of thing in there as well. So it's about 3,800 square feet total. So going to be a nice addition to that and using industrial revenue bonds again to finance or at least to avoid some sales tax on the cost of those improvements.
Yes, I was down there yesterday, and I believe they're already starting to do some work on the inside of that building. Also, on that one had been empty for a while, too, I believe. I wasn't sure exactly how long, but I don't remember there being anything in there in the 7 or 8 years I've been here.
Well, I think that goes back potentially to the 80s as well, because years ago, that was Central Kansas Power, what is now Midwest Energy. That were those offices, as was Gellas, I believe. And so they've been on their location on Canterbury for quite some time, and I'm not sure it's been occupied since then. So another downtown building that has been empty for a long, long time and doesn't look very good from the street. It's kind of boarded up, and so that'll be a great addition and just continuous improvement to our downtown area.
We've talked a little bit about how expensive it is to build new space, so taking advantage of some of these existing spaces and renovating and remodeling them is really more cost efficient for businesses than to build new.
It certainly can be. New construction, I can tell you firsthand because we're working on our community center project, and the cost is roughly $400 a square foot to build a commercial structure like that. It can be cheaper to remodel existing. However, with remodels, you never know what you're going to run into because when you tear out that wall, you don't always know what's behind it. So you run into some things there. But that's why we have incentives like the IRBs, as well as there are some historical tax credits that developers of historical structures are able to get to offset some of those costs as well.
Yeah, I know in the Chestnut Suites building, the old bank building, there was some asbestos remediation that they had to take care of, but I'm understanding that they have made plans to get that taken care of. And I think that was a big stumbling block for that building for years.
Something you always have to worry about in older structures like that is asbestos. And I think the rule is you either have to leave it alone, don't disturb it, because it's the fibers that get into the air that cause the problem, or you have to mitigate it. And many times your remodel plans don't allow you to not disturb it. You have to mitigate it. And that takes special organizations to come in with hazmat suits and special bags to put it all in whether it's tile or whether it's the stuff that wraps heating and cooling pipes. Asbestos is everywhere when you start looking at old buildings. So it does drive up the cost a lot there. And so you've got to deal with that as well.
Okay. Is there anything else that you would like to add, Doug, about any updates on Grow Haze projects or anything going on at Brief Space?
Well, we talked a little bit about it, but I'll mention it again that the road is now in on Wheatland Drive, and we hope to have some construction going on 12 new homes out in that area next to NCK. The unfortunate news at Brief Space is we had a water leak in our basement and have had to remove all the flooring in the basement to dry it out, and so we're in the process of doing that. We're not going to miss a beat. We're going to keep on hosting events and that kind of thing, but it'll look a little bit different than it looked before with just a cement floor versus, the luxury vinyl tile floor, LVT floor that was in there before. But we're going to get that taken care of and hopefully get things back into order. And then we hope to be starting on the community center to the north of Hayes Medical Center sometime in the next couple of weeks. We have things kind of locked down now, a couple of glitches along the way with architectural plans and some cost challenges we ran into, but we think we've got those figured out, and we hope to start on that in the next couple of weeks. And then the bids went out, or whatever they call it when you solicit bids for the infrastructure for the Grove itself went out this week. And so I think we've got 30-day window there where we're asking contractors to submit bids within 30 days. And assuming those bids come in where we think they will, we would see start of construction for the sewer, water, streets, curb, and gutter sometime October, November kind of time frame. So lots of stuff going to be going out at 27th and Canterbury. I know the people who bought the house at the corner of 27th and Canterbury are going to be moving it off in the next few weeks too. So you'll see some activity there. Okay.
Any updates on the microfactory? Are you still looking for people for that space?
We absolutely are still looking for tenants, still talking to a few people, but no takers yet. So we're anxiously looking for somebody to be our first tenant out there and get that thing kicked off.
And they just need to contact you at Grow Haze if they have interest in that space?
Yes, contact David Klingon would be the best one to contact. He's our point guy on the microfactory and has all the information. And so it's a terrific spot, going to be awesome for somebody. People are going to be able to take advantage of it. So absolutely want to encourage people to contact us and check that space out.
Okay. Anything else this morning, Doug?
The only other thing I might mention when we were talking about the Tallgrass Edition and the RHID, what the city has agreed to do is they have agreed to, normally when the developer does that, they pay all the expenses up front for the streets, roads, that type of thing. Then they get reimbursed over a 25-year period from that tax increment I talked about. Well, the problem with that for a developer is 25 years is a long time, and it stops them from moving on. And so what the city has agreed to do is to bond that amount that has been expended for those roads and things. And the RHID revenues from the tax increment, which is already in place because there's 54 homes out there, will go to pay off those bonds. But it does give the developer, which is Heart of America, their cash back in order to go do the next development. So the development agreement calls for the city to bond it out, the funds to go to Heart of America Development, but Heart of America agrees to not put those funds in their pocket, but to reinvest those funds in the next section of that development to the north. So they own 21 acres to the north of where the existing homes are, and they have agreed to go ahead and develop that area with those funds that are going to come from that bond issuance, and that will be roughly another 85 to 90 lots that will be available for future development. So that's kind of the way that works. It is complicated, but at the end of the day, it's a win-win situation, and the city takes virtually no risk in doing it, but does accommodate the developer. So hats off to the city as well as Heart of America for being willing to think outside the box and get that done.
Yeah, in such a tight housing market that we have here and such a great need for it, those housing additions are so needed right now.
Definitely.